Hey everyone, Chloe here and welcome back to this feminine platform. And if you are new here, ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers, welcome. So I wanted to create a deeper dive new feminine school video and a very important femininity and masculinity lesson on the two choices that both a man can make within his manhood and the two choices that a woman can make in her womanhood. And both choices will affect the quality of a man's life, of a man's mindset, his masculinity, and how he shows up in the world. And will affect the quality of life of a woman's mindset, her femininity, and in the way that she presents herself to the world. And I want to remind you listeners that in the middle of all of this gender warring and in this manosphere dustiness, people tend to forget that the masculine divine and the feminine divine were created to be harmonious. But diving right in, when it comes to masculinity, and this is very important to note, especially for the women who tend to view men through the hypergamous lens of having a bag or no bag, or women who tend to view men through the lens of physically attractive and men who have a face that only a mother can love. And for those of you who need a refresher on what the masculine divine is responsible for, there is a video for that and you should check it out, especially if you are new here or if you are a woman who is simply lost and confused about what the masculine principle is responsible for. But just to piggyback off of that video, masculinity, just like femininity, is a gift that is given to us by our higher power. It is a responsibility and it is not a game to be played with. But unfortunately, the execution of masculinity isn't taught in schools, nor is it modeled in many homes. And this miseducation strongly factors into the reason why so many men end up wholesale destroying themselves. When used correctly, masculinity can bring a man glory. It can bring a man worship, family, influence, happiness, peace, abundance, prosperity, respect, purpose, satisfaction, and legacy. But when used incorrectly, it can and will bring a man misery, treachery, the spirit of confusion, unhealthy karmic energy, poor health, loneliness, and misery, as all men are given the power within their masculine divine to either build or destroy. And that's what I want you ladies to focus on, the building or the destroying. And I want you to keep that in mind, ladies, when you are looking at the men in your immediate circle. This is your brother, your father, your stepfather, your grandfather, your uncles, or your cousins. And this is also true for my male-identified women who like to cling and cleave to the words of these online dusties. No matter the male influence and no matter the race or the color, all men will be motivated by the internal choice to either build or destroy. Please keep that in mind. Now, a builder is a protector, is a covering for the feminine divine, and is a man who will lead in his masculine to benefit his family and his community at large as a source of inspiration and influence. A builder will protect the feminine divine by inspiring trust and safeness, and with masculine guidance, a woman's femininity can both petal and bloom at its fullest in the gloriousness of safety and soft feminine energy. A destroyer, however, is a man who has a mindset of serving himself and himself alone. A destroyer is a man who seeks worship for himself and not for the glory of his higher power. A destroyer will use his God-given talent and his gifts to hurt, to harm, to maim, and to cause permanent damage to women. A destroyer, when at his worst, is a maligner, an abuser, is self-absorbed, and will go to extreme lengths to serve himself and his ego. Often a destroyer's ego is poisonous, ravenous, greedy, toxic, and will be quite harmful to the feminine divine, as a destroyer sees the feminine divine as an energy to be manhandled, humiliated, damaged, berated, roughed up, bullied, knocked around, and as an energy to be battered, abused, and exploited, and punched down on, all for the gratification of his ego. And because a man has the power to either build or destroy, such will be his legacy. The reason why so many women respond favorably and positively is not because Russell Wilson is a simp. Of course he isn't. Women respond to Russell favorably because he is a builder and a lover of family. Comparatively, there are men out here who shall go unnamed who will literally call themselves toxic kings. And unfortunately, this disastrous toxic energy tends to catch up with all men until it completely damages them to the point of no return. Now, when it comes to femininity, all women must ask themselves this question: are you a lover or are you a fighter? And a woman can either choose to be a lover or a fighter, and that choice is completely up to her. But at the core of a feminine woman, which is why you need to subscribe to this channel, is a woman who chooses to be a lover as opposed to being a fighter. And I learned this lesson very early on when I became a wife. Now, very similar to the masculine divine, the feminine divine, or the way that a woman handles her femininity, is both a gift and a responsibility that is given to women and is not a gift to be played with, ignored, or toyed with, as it is a gift that is given to us from our higher power. When femininity is at its best, a woman is juicier, softer, happier. She's a receiver. She has higher emotional intelligence. She's more playful, and she is overall more optimistic about life. But unfortunately, women as a whole aren't taught how to be feminine in schools, and femininity isn't often modeled in the home. And many women instead are taught to be surrogates or substitutes for the masculine divine, to be their own providers, to be their own lifelong protectors, to be their own leaders until they are running out of gas, and often until they are burnt at both ends of the candlestick. As being a surrogate for masculinity is not only very exhausting, but it is also very crushing to the feminine soul. And this miseducation and this engineering strongly factors into the reason why so many women end up destroying themselves trying to be stand-ins and substitutes for the masculine divine. When used correctly, femininity can bring a woman gentleness, softness, protection, provision, a happy inner child, a radiant inner child, fulfillment, healing, joy, feminine worship from the masculine divine, a happy home, and a life filled with endless beauty and wisdom. When used incorrectly, however, and some feathers will be ruffled to hear this, but argue with your mammy, but when your femininity is dormant, non-existent, or is used incorrectly, it can bring a woman confusion, treachery, and a lot of beef, bitterness. It can make a woman defensive. It can make her resentful. A lack of femininity can bring emptiness, disillusionment, hopelessness, and a great deal of inner sadness. As all women are given the power within their feminine divine, and I want you to listen carefully, ladies, to either be a lover or a fighter. Ladies, a lover is caring, compassionate, tender, sensitive, kind, sweet, sensual, seductive, is a darling, a dear, and is a ladylike presence who prefers peace over war and harmony over chaos. And that is what the masculine divine is fully and completely attracted to. A woman who prefers harmony over chaos. A lover is a nurturer of self, is a nurturer of her soul, her spirit, her family, and her community at large, and will serve as an inspirational source of compassion and kindness. A lover enhances and inspires the masculine divine to provide, to compete, and to go to war for everything that he cherishes, adores, and reveres. And that, my dear ladies, is the crux of feminine power. A fighter, however, is a woman who dwells and operates in an energetic space of anger, rage, confrontation, frustration, scorn, chaos, destruction, battle energy, and is experienced by the masculine divine as the complete absence of feminine softness. A fighter can be a social justice warrior, a crusader for toxicity, a misandrist, and for those of you who don't know, a misandrist is a woman, and there are plenty of women who hate men, and when her inner ugly is very powerful, will seek to malign herself and others with the spirit of revenge, vindictiveness, jealousy, the sabotage of others, and emasculation. In other words, a fighter is a woman who will destroy her own happiness out of her own egoic need to compete and win. And yes, ladies, a woman can have a very poisonous ego. And because a woman has the power to either be a lover or a fighter, such will be her legacy. The reason why so many men respond favorably to femininity is because the feminine divine is such a natural, harmonious complement to the masculine divine when done correctly. In fact, the sweetness of the lover is exactly what makes the feminine divine quite powerful, as a lover can literally bring a man down to his hands and knees. And women who are fighters tend to attract spirit of confusion men who love to fight with women and who love to go 50-50. Energetically, women who are fighters typically will attract weak men and will sustain relationships with feminine men, passive men, opportunists, men who seek hypergamy, and men whom fighters won't ever respect or admire. And the consequences and the ramifications of a fighter are both painful and disastrous, but namely low quality romantic relationships. Now, it may take you 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, 20 years, or 25 years to get this lesson. But if you desire to be a feminine woman, here is how to be a lover: by giving up the fight and by investing in being a mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually connected woman who is committed to living a life of feminine softness. The softer, the better. So that is all that I have to say on building and destroying and on being a lover and a fighter. And now I will leave the floor open to your comments. So ladies, are the men in your lives or the men that you've dated builders, or are they destroyers? And as a woman, do you see yourself mainly as a lover, or do you see yourself as a fighter? And as always, stay tuned for more Feminine School videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers in the next one.